laugh. And my feelings toward coming on your show went from I would never in a million years to kind of giving myself the opportunity to listen to your podcast to figure out who you really are. Because of course I had very strong thoughts about who you are.
Really?
Yeah, but I realized that it was based on clips that I would watch of you that had gone viral. And they had gone viral because they were offensive or you had said something that was
viral, like syphilis is viral.
Pretty much. Okay. I mean, you should think of it that way because it was mostly painting you in a very negative light.
All right, let's get into it. I ain't gonna make you listen to the whole banjo music now.
I think that some of what you've been talking about lately like hits at the heart of what I care most about. And that's the importance of this country representing the American people, the importance of the United States being a sovereign country that has politicians and a government that prioritizes the American people as opposed to a foreign government. And speaking,
he's like, I don't need to prepare for an argument with you. Bring me on. I mean, all right, sure. I mean, like I said, once the goal is hit, I got you, my friend. But you don't need to prepare for an argument. Shoot, depends on what I mean, here's the thing. You prepare for an argument. You haven't even laid out one, my friend. You haven't even laid out an argument. So prepare for what argument? Because you ain't laid one out.
Out the way you've been speaking out about some of these issues takes a lot of courage because it goes against the grain and it goes against, I mean, decades of propaganda and conditioning in American media. And so to me, that commonality that you and I share made me a lot more open-minded to coming on this show because I do think that
because Tucker's been speaking out against Israel and seeing that he used to be a neoconservative, he's kind of like the most unlikely guy to do so. Like, you never in a million years did people honestly expect Tucker to speak out against Israel. Like, trust me, from the starting of his career, you would not seen this coming.
Americans from across the political spectrum need to find areas of agreement, especially as it pertains to making this country better, so we can apply appropriate pressure on our politicians and get them to represent us, regardless of the corruption, regardless of the influence of foreign governments. At the end of the day, these politicians are nothing if it isn't, if it weren't for the American people, right? So like right now, what's really interesting is in Congress, it appears that there's this bipartisan effort to force a vote to release the Epstein files.
Yes.
And the only reason why that's happening is because there's a very loud and aggressive portion of the MAGA base that's demanding it, and they're not letting it go. And I commend them because I agree with them. I think we need transparency. We need to know whether or not we literally have members in our government or influential people, you know, in the periphery of our government who are pedophiles. I want to know.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, super donors included. We definitely got to add the super donors.
It's interesting, the framework that you laid out. The government of any country ought to be sovereign, which is to say it should make most of its big decisions on the basis of what's good for the people that it represents. And it's bad when foreign countries control your country.
Mm-hmm.
Those don't strike me as hateful statements at all. Those aren't expressions of animus against anybody, are they?
I don't think they're hateful statements at all. I'm an American. I love this country. I love the people in this country. And I don't want to live in this ridiculous, like, perversion of the American government where they pretend to represent us, but in reality, Americans are on the back burner. Our tax dollars are being taken from us, not to help Americans who need help, but to give all sorts of subsidies to private industries that are already doing really well. Okay, they don't need extra subsidies or tax cuts or things like that. But in addition to that, all the foreign aid that we're pumping into the Middle East, Israel, right? Oftentimes when we talk about foreign aid that goes to Israel, at this point, I believe it's about, $4 billion a year. on top of all of the military aid that we've been pumping into Israel over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unacceptable to me that we're doing that.
I mean, $3 billion and what? I think military assistance. And then we'd also gave them like 50 billion. I mean, another like 28 billion. Trust me, they done got over about 250 billion out of us.
And in the backdrop of that, you have the United States Congress cutting.
I mean, damn, that's what we spend it on. That's what we used to spend on the Department of Education. We spend on Israel.
$1.1 trillion to Medicaid? Really? That's the problem? That's where we need to cut funding from? By the way, also cutting funding to food assistance.
Now, she is close to the number of cuts in Medicaid. It's $930 billion. So there'll be $93 billion cut from Medicaid each year for the next 10 years.
How do you justify sending tens of billions of dollars to Israel in the last 2 years alone while targeting cuts to Medicaid and food stamps? It makes me beyond angry. I think it's so unbelievably unjust. Okay. And if you speak out about it the way I'm doing right now, I'm sorry, I'm getting like kind of aggressive. If you speak out about it like I am right now, people try to smear you as an anti-Semite. And you know what? I'm not an anti-Semite. I know what's in my heart. And I'm not going to let those smears stop me from saying what I know is correct and what's morally just.
Is it possible that people are slang?
Well, I would tell her this. I'd be like, look, I hear you out. And she's not wrong. I mean, we're talking about cutting Medicaid, but we haven't really touched Israel. And I get that. I ain't gonna lie, that's honestly fair criticism. But what I would say to her is that, well, due to the way things are set up on the lib side as well, some of you guys actually support funding Israel. Let's be real, they support funding Israel more than they support protecting Medicaid. So it's a both sides problem. Let's be real. Both sides have this problem of over support for Israel and them not willing to go against Israel in any way, honestly, any shape, way, or form. I don't get why, but this is just the way it is with these Zionists on both sides of the aisle. I'm not going to overly blame Dems. I'm not going to blame Republicans. It's just both sides seem to have this crazy support for Israel.
Standard in order to prevent conversations like this from happening in the first place. So you said, I was hesitant to come on the show.
And shout out to my man Green Bean. He says, we all know some people ruined it for all. I mean, that's facts. I mean, Medicaid waste and all that good stuff. And here's the thing, though, a lot of people does have a bit of confusion about this. Like, what about your grandma? What about the old ladies? That's Medicare. Medicare is for 65 and older. Medicaid is for low income. Like, you guys got to remember that. So when you guys talk about old ladies dying and all that good stuff, I mean, that's incorrect. And trust me, there was no cuts to Medicare, but there were crazy cuts to Medicaid. Well, of $930 billion over the next 10 years.
I mean, the reason we wanted to book you and a bunch of people who work for me had the same feeling, is that it was what you just said. Like, we can disagree on all kinds of things, but if the fundamental orientation is the U.S. government ought to make a good faith effort to improve the lives of Americans, that's not a partisan statement. That's not a crazy out there sentiment at all. And we saw that. It was like, oh yeah. And then you're like, yeah, but he's a Nazi. I can't do the Nazi show.
It's so, I mean,
so you sort of want, like, I have all kinds of stupid opinions. I've said all kinds of stupid things. I've had ugly opinions in the past. I'm not defending every opinion I have had or even currently have. I'm merely saying to reduce someone to a caricature is a kind of tactic to prevent anyone from having a real conversation with the person.
It's meant to discredit. And yeah, you're right. It's meant to stop these types of conversations from happening. Now, you are very conservative. I'm not very conservative. I have some views that lean.
Because let's be real, the current Medicaid is still have a Medicare. Medicare still has a $1 trillion budget. Medicaid now has, I believe, a $800 to $900 billion budget now.
More conservative than progressives feel comfortable with, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, what drives my politics is this desire for everyone to thrive economically. And, you've been speaking out about
how is that? So what is the difference? If I could, I mean, I would hope that would be like everyone's desire. It's not.
It's not. No.
Right. At all. But what does it mean to be not to get
Shout out Vlastine. He said for SID's crying funds. I mean, yeah, but he is trying to antagonize me to letting him on early. But hey, I mean, bro, come on. I've been doing this for a minute. People way more critical than you try to come in my neck. You're going to need to try a little better than that. Actually, there's honestly nothing you can do or say. But you can just wait for the goal, my friend. Or you can help towards it. It's like it's all good.
Too philosophical here, but like,
Yeah.
what does it mean to be conservative or liberal? Like at this point,
Well, I don't think that the political labels that we currently have in this country make much sense anymore, to be honest with you.
I've noticed, yeah.
But I'm talking about like traditional conservatism. You know, I believe in reproductive rights to a point.
Right.
You know, I know that you're anti-abortion.
Big time.
Yeah. So like that's a disagreement we have.
Right.
And I'm not at all going to like come on this show and capitulate on my beliefs.
Right.
But I think that those are important issues. I'm not minimizing them.
Right.
But I feel that we can't even really engage in a real debate about policy or specific issues unless we know we have we're living in a sovereign country and we have a government that actually has interest in representing us.
Right. Because it doesn't really matter otherwise.
Right.
If, people keep voting for different things, but get the same result.
Exactly.
Then the system is fake. And that's the point where people start to go crazy and do radical, violent things, which I'm completely opposed to. I just want to say that at the outset,
Yeah.
I hate violent radicalism more than anything. And I feel like that's the result of people realizing their system is fake. So you have to make it kind of real.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
And, we've been seeing more and more political violence in this country,
Yes.
and it's terrifying. I mean, I'm not justifying it, but I can explain why it's happening.
For sure.
And
Yeah, on both sides. I mean, the libs think it's the end of democracy. And I believe, on the conservatives, some of the conservatives feel like their way of life is being threatened. These are both small groups and all that good stuff that are willing to get violent about it, but they exist on both sides.
I don't want things to devolve further. And here's the other reason why I decided to come. So I knew that you moved here. You moved to like a rural part of the country. And I live in a big city. And I think that living in a big city and spending most of your time in a big city kind of blinds you to the rest of America. A lot of Americans live in rural parts of the country.
Yes.
And I want the opportunity to like speak to them, like get to know them, understand where their hearts and their minds are at. And so I saw it as an opportunity to like expose myself to people that I otherwise wouldn't get an opportunity to speak to.
And kudos to her, because most city girls or city people like her look down on rural people. They don't even want to be around them to feel. I mean, shoot, they feel like they're below them, and that's the problem of the Democratic Party. I mean, the condescending liberal is a thing. The problem is you guys are too condescending to anybody that don't think like you, that didn't grow up like you. And like I'm saying kudos to her because she didn't let that like cloud her mind. She still went out there and went to talk to rural Americans. That's where you Dems effed up. I mean, looking down on people.
And I think you've hired like drivers to bring people, to where you're at.
It's very
from the
far
airport.
away. Yes.
Yeah, the airport's very far. But I love that because they're not like, they're not Uber drivers.
They're like unemployed loggers and stuff.
No, but they are. And
I know.
I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed having conversations with them. So one of the drivers who picked me up, Jen, she mentioned the big, beautiful bill that just passed. And, I can tell she identifies as Republican, and she wasn't happy with that bill. And I suspected that most ordinary working class Americans, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are not happy with that bill.
Yes.
The $1.1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, that's what she brought up. She brought that up. And I thought that was really fascinating. Now, if you talk to someone who identifies as a liberal Democrat, they'll probably think, oh, these Republican voters, they're so greedy. All they want is tax cuts. They want to cut the social safety net. But no, actually, when it comes to ordinary people, there's a lot of agreement, a lot of agreement. A lot of people are suffering right now. And, you have...
Nobody's disagreeing to Medicaid, but crying over these cuts to Medicaid when we've actually spent lower in Medicaid before is absurd. And then crying about cuts to Medicaid while also crying about the debt is, well, double speak. It's like we have to cut somewhere. We have to cut in our major expenses, and Medicaid and Medicare is one of our major expensive, healthcare altogether. So I hear what you're saying, but let's be real. An 800 and what? An 800 billion to a $900 billion budget for Medicaid. We've worked with a lot. We've worked with a whole lot less. I'd advise you look up the Medicaid budget like under Trump. That's why they say we need to get back to pre-COVID spending levels. That's what they meant, because you look at the rise of Medicaid spending under Biden. You're going to be quite surprised on why we cut it in the first place.
All these different industries, especially, beginning in the 90s, offshoring, all these jobs that have been destroyed. I mean, most people work in the service sector at this point, and manufacturing jobs are gone. I think that's part of the reason why Donald Trump has been so appealing to the MAGA base.
Without question.
Right. And so I want ordinary people to just consider the contradiction here. So if you're a liberal Democrat and you're under the assumption that Republican voters are just greedy and they want to cut the social safety net, why would they love Trump so much, who ran as an economic populist? Now, I don't think that Trump has carried out his promises because of, well, there's a lot of different examples I can cite, but the most recent is the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Yeah, there are some provisions in there, no tax on tips. It's going to be means tested, and it also expires in 4 years, whereas the tax benefits that disproportionately benefit the wealthy are permanent. The no tax on, the elderly or Social Security, that also will expire, and it's up to a certain amount. I think it's like $6,000 if I'm not mistaken. The child tax credit, I think, was just peanuts compared to what I think this country could afford in helping families. You want to encourage people to have kids?
Yeah.
Okay, best way to do it is to create an economic situation where couples feel comfortable bringing life into this world.
I agree.
Now, guys, I want you to get this right here, right? So, Medicaid spending, Trump era. We was working with $375 billion. Yes. In fiscal year 2017, federal Medicaid spending total approximately $375 billion. Do we really need $1 trillion in Medicaid? Like, think about it. If we was rocking with 375, 409 billion in 2019, I mean, and then all of a sudden we got Biden and it jumps, and it extremely jumps. I'm talking about, it goes from that 409 billion, and then it caps all the way out to what we got now in the trillions of dollars. That's what I was trying to get to people. It's like, yo, I hear what you guys are saying. Like, this is a dramatic cut, but we've worked with less.
And then no tax on overtime. That's another example. That's also means tested, and that's a provision that will expire in 2028. It's just interesting to see which provisions are permanent and which are set to expire in 4 years when, Trump is done with his term. So if you really want to represent the working class, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I haven't really seen it to the extent that Trump claimed he was going to help the working class in this country.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Here's a revealing and unpleasant fact.
And shout out to Anna. I ain't gonna lie though. All right. And shout out to my man Lorenzo Day. He says, y'all turn. Hey, and shout out to my dog. He says, hey, man, we trying to get to this call-in open. So my man Sid can come up here and let us know what's on his mind. Cause I ain't gonna lie, I'm curious. It's like he's been being kind of ambiguous with his words. I don't know what his real point is. I don't even know what the man's argument is. I don't even know what the man disagrees on. But damn it, I want to know.
Culture has reopened for.
I ain't gonna lie, you got me curious, but not that curious to let you on before the go though. Not that curious, my friend. Like, hold on. But all right, guys, let's get back into it. And shout out Anna. I mean, I think Vlad said, he's like, at least Anna's willing to talk, unlike Chank, and not yelling and sweating your face.
Do you have your views changed?
I have some views that have definitely changed. Yeah. I wouldn't say that I swung from far left to far right.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means, actually. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think I can answer the question, so I don't know why I'm asking it of you, but what do the terms mean now? And for whatever it's worth, I've settled on people who are honest, people who lie.
Right.
And that's like the only division. Maybe have the honest party, the liar party, or something, in the future. But clearly you've started thinking things or thinking through things that you hadn't before. And God bless you. That's like the greatest privilege of adulthood. You get to think for yourself. It's happened to me a lot. But how did that start?
Well, I mean, it started with personal experiences, and it often does, right? Often your policy preferences will slap you in the face, and then you're like, oh, I don't like that, you know?
Right. No, I get it.
You know, because sometimes there are unintended consequences. I'll give you a specific example. So I was very much supportive of the defund the police movement in 2020. And it was because, you know, you see this video of a man like dying on camera with a police officer refusing to like, you know, ease up on him. And it really made me angry. I felt that it was, and whatever you think about George Floyd, I don't care, right? Like,
well, and I hear you, sis, but the problem is that you're going off emotions instead of the fact of the case. He didn't die because that man was on his neck. He died because he consumed a fentanyl ball, or he consumed a speedball, or a concoction of drugs, and he had heart problems while doing that. So yeah, I mean, trust me, I get what you're saying, but you're kind of going off emotions, and we got to go off the fact that it matter. I mean, it's sad. It is sad that man died, but let's be real. Free Derek Chauvin. I mean, the man died of fentanyl overdose.
What was happening in that moment in that video was so disgusting to me and so unjust. And so I was like, no, I totally bought the narrative that it's not actually about like abolishing police. It's about, you know, taking some of that funding and investing in social services or in social workers. So social workers respond to certain calls instead of the police.
Hell no.
That actually has ended up being pretty disastrous.
It was the Mundani, like, oh no, so defund police and put them in place of social workers. I'm like, so you want the social worker to show up to the domestic violence, like, you know, situation? You want them to show up there? I don't think you guys are thinking this all the way through. It sounds good, but in action, though, you'll be putting people's life in danger, and including the social worker.
In California, in Los Angeles in particular, because I've seen it firsthand.
And you're from there.
I'm from there. My best friend since childhood, she's a social worker herself. And I've talked to other social workers about.
And shout out Vladstein. He says Sid is calming down a bit. Let's go, Anna. She is learning to dare to change her opinions in life. Know when you're wrong and admitting it. Yeah, that's facts. I mean, sometimes you do have to know when you're wrong, or when you was wrong, or you got you made the wrong take, or you said the wrong information. You got to be accountable, or nobody's ever going to trust you, especially if you can't just be accountable. And you know what's so funny? It's funny because Chank, I could tell Chank sees this girl as a daughter because she debates just like the man. Like if you line her and Chank up debating, it's like the same. It's literally the same. It's almost like she's like a mini Chank. Like you could damn near tell they have like a father and daughter relationship damn near.
What their experience has been like. And they're like, I actually interviewed one for a piece I wrote for Real Clear Investigations. And she told me, look, it hasn't really worked out the way people have thought it would work out. Oftentimes we'll go to a call and it's supposed to be a nonviolent person, or a nonviolent call. Someone's having a mental health episode, but they'll show up and oftentimes it'll be someone who does have a weapon. It's not a gun, but it's maybe a knife, and they feel threatened. So they have no choice but to call the police. And so in 2021, the Los Angeles City Council, was inspired by BLM, and they decided to take $150 million away from the LAPD's budget and instead invest it in other services. It actually ended up being even more. We're spending more on police, more on the LAPD than we ever have, like record amounts. And the reason why is because you have to really ask yourself before you make these decisions, okay, do we need this many officers? Let's compare Los Angeles to other huge cities. What's the police officer or sworn officer to citizen ratio? And in LA, it's always been historically lower, much lower than other major cities. So at the peak of the LAPD and the number of sworn officers in the LAPD, we had about 10,000. After the cuts and after all the difficulty in recruiting new sworn officers, because people don't want to be police officers anymore for understandable reasons. It's not a desirable job when you have people constantly, talking about how terrible cops are. So now we have about 8,500. And as a result, the remaining sworn officers are working insane overtime, like crazy. Like we have one police officer in the LAPD, I think his name's Nathan Corey. He made $600,000 one year because of police overtime. So right now, taxpayers in Los Angeles,
600,000.
Yes. So right now, taxpayers in LA are kind of confronted with this situation where they're paying far more for less as it pertains to policing. Since there is a shortage, there's longer wait times if you call 911 and you need help. Some people complain that they'll call, and if it's not, like, let's say someone was the victim of a burglary, obviously you're not in imminent danger. So they'll call the cops and hope that someone will show up, take fingerprints and maybe find who burglarized them. They never do, but they don't show up for hours and people get really upset and they're like, why is this happening? And what's really interesting is I try to explain why it's happening and I get called all sorts of names for doing it, but I don't care. The truth is the truth.
Wait, what do you, okay. First of all, why are you one of the only people willing to admit you were wrong about defund the police? Like, why were you willing to say, again, bless you, it's the beginning of growth, but I've done it myself many times, but why were you willing to admit that?
Because at the core of who I am, I think as a journalist, I didn't enter this line of work to be a mouthpiece for anyone. I really care about the truth. And I feel that if you want to live in a democracy, you have to make sure that people are getting accurate information to make the right decisions for themselves once they're casting a ballot.
That's right.
And so I felt angry because I felt misled by the media.
Yep.
And now, it was partly my fault too, because I was in a bubble and I was only getting one side of every story. And even if I agree with that side, I should at least hear what the opposing argument is. And I wasn't going out of my way to do that before. Now I do. And so I see things as far more complex and nuanced. And it's hard to make an argument that's going to appease any audience at this point, because I think a lot of Americans have been conditioned to be partisan and prioritize partisanship before truth. And I think truth is what will set us free, genuinely. Truth will help us ensure that we have a better government. And I'm sorry, one side or the other does not have a monopoly on the truth. They just don't. And one side might get something right one time. The other side might have a good point when it comes to a different issue. And I think we just need to be open-minded. And more importantly, we need to have conversations with people. Because if you just rely on what the media is saying about a particular political figure or a particular media figure, why are you letting them tell you what to think about individuals? Why don't you actually do a little bit of digging or have these conversations yourself and try to figure out who these people really are?
Facts.
Like the speech you gave at,
shoot, I would encourage anybody to do that. If the guy is, all right, let me tell you the time that I did that. Sam Cedar. I don't like Sam Cedar too much. I really don't like most of his points. But here's the thing though. I listen to him. I listen to CNN. I listen to MSNBC. You guys see me do it all the time. Even though I don't agree with these guys, I still listen to them because I'm gonna be real with you. I don't want to get all my information just from the right. There's things on the right that they won't cover that the left will, like geopolitics. There's things on the left there's things on the left that the right's gonna cover, like Trump's success and the market.
Turning Point. You said,
and if you want to, hear from any critics of Trump's policies, go straight to mainstream media and hear the critics. I like hearing the critics and the supporters.
A few things in there that I might not agree with, but like the overall message was so courageous. And I never thought in a million years I would hear it at a conservative conference. Never.
It's just interesting. Well, the truth is wherever it is and you try to recognize it. But I hope I'm going to give you my text and I want you to text me, if you will, criticism of what you're saying now.
Okay.
Because I want to keep a list of people who are offended by what you're saying just in my head. Like, how could anyone be offended by what you're saying now?
Yeah. Well, it might not be.
You're not the criminal here.
Yeah. Well, let me just be honest with you. I think that most people who are going to attack me aren't even going to listen to this interview. It's just the fact that we're having a conversation with each other. But I take offense
profanity
to people
bomb.
trying to police who I can talk to.
Wait, what?
In fact, the more they try to police me, the
He says, "Poll profanity bomb incoming. Yes or no?" Wait, is that a question?
more I want to talk to the person they forbid me to speak to. Honestly, I've always been like that. I've been like that since I was a kid. My mom knows it better than anyone. I'm just a little bit rebellious and I don't like to be told what to do. I hate it.
And what to think.
Yeah.
And who you can talk to. I mean, that's like that's a core decision. Who do I associate with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are my friends? Who am I having dinner with?
Honestly, if you tell me not to listen to somebody, I'm most likely going to go listen to them. I mean, that's why you see me play all types of people on here, from the left, the right, and the center, because a lot of people told me not to listen to them. And I say, you know what? Now I really want to listen and see what they got to say and see what they're saying that's pissing you off. Hey, it might piss me off, or I might get some new thoughts. I might get a new idea. You never know.
Who do I marry? I mean, if you allow
It may
other people
change
to
my
make those
mind.
decisions for you, you're not free.
No, you're not. And oh my God, what a terrible career path to be a journalist who doesn't get to have conversations like with people that they're curious. I'm curious about you. I am.
Right.
You were a neocon.
Yeah, I
And
was.
I
It's
became,
hard to believe that.
it is hard to believe that. I became politicized in the lead up to the Iraq invasion in 2003.
Yes.
I was in high school, and I remember in 2002, I went to like a hippie, magnet school, and we had Peace Day annually. And I remember giving a speech in 2002 to make the case against the preemptive war in Iraq. And I remember you're gonna laugh at this. I remember in English class, we were reading a play, The Glass Menagerie, which I found deeply boring. And I had I had a cutout of a New York Times article in which Bill Kristol was one of the people the reporter interviewed. And, Bill Kristol loves war.
Yeah.
Hardcore neocon. And I just remember just sitting in that English class, reading his quotes and seething over it and thinking to myself, I can't wait to one day get an opportunity to confront him. And I actually did get that opportunity. It wasn't about war, but it was a Politicon panel debate about healthcare. And, I kind of brought up the fact that Israel has universal healthcare and Americans don't.
What did he say?
He was so unprepared. There's a picture of him, like he has index cards, like someone wrote notes down for him and he's just fumbling with the index cards. He doesn't know what to do. And then once the whole panel discussed.
What can you say? What can you honestly say though? It's like, well, we support Israel with all this money and they got universal health care. Why can't we ensure that for ourselves? I mean, okay, good point. Wait, hold on. I mean, let's go to size. Okay. Israel is the size of New Jersey. It's a lot cheaper for them to afford universal health care than for us. Also, there's a lot other, I would say terms that go into this. If we want universal health care, I mean, really, we gotta cut the bullshit with the pharmaceutical companies, what Trump is trying to do, and we gotta negotiate better, on our healthcare prices. Because let's be real, to provide every U.S. citizen with healthcare, it would probably cost us about $14,000 per person. Per person. Do you know what they're doing in Australia? Shout out to my Australians and shout out to Galactic for low-key tuning me in on it, but they only spent about $6,700. Well, my bad, 6,000. Yeah, $6,700 per person. They probably spend like $29 billion on universal health care. Compare that to us spending $5 trillion. I mean, come on, you can't make the comparison. Especially when we are an unhealthy nation. We're trying to get on track. Shout out RFK. We're trying to get in track, but we are still unhealthy. Maybe us getting more healthier can help lower that. Prescription prices can help lower that as well. But we are at $14,000 per person. I mean, the only way universal healthcare is going to work if we get to a healthcare cost per person of something like Australia, where we're at $6,700.
Question was over. Someone who was with me overheard him say, damn it, she came prepared. Something along those lines.
Yeah, it's arrogance. It's people who've been told since they were small that they're brilliant. Bill Kristol, Ted Cruz. I mean, it does distort you and it actually makes you dumb paradoxically over time.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you're never pressed.
Got to stay humble.
I completely agree with you. It's not hard for me. Given my circumstances. You probably heard about S.E.T. Lots of people are talking about it.
It's like, man, I hear what she's saying, But bruh. All right, now how does the radical left ideology is destroying California? I mean, woo, that's a doozy right there. I ain't gonna lie.
That homelessness really exploded in Los Angeles. Like, it's always been a problem in LA.
Yep.
But it now touches every like square mile of that county. And it's just gotten during COVID, it was unbelievably bad. And I just felt like,
all right, guys. Now I do want to take a geopolitical spin. You know, here at Saying Key Media, we like to cover the left and the right when it comes to politics, and then we like to take it around the world to see what's going on with the rest of the world, because somehow it always leads back into us. So a lot of people don't say, "Oh, why do we got to talk about geopolitics?" Because